Hey everyone, today I have an OKSew best bits for you. This clip is taken from the Mini E video where I show you how to add binding to your bag using a single folded piece of bias binding using double-sided tape. I'm going to use double-sided tape on the inside of this bias tape. I'm going to stick it in place and then I'm going to sew around the edge in one go. Folding it open and placing a strip of double-sided tape just next to the fold. I'm using 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm making sure that I have 1/8 of an inch from the folded edge so that I won't be sewing into the double-sided tape as I go around my bag. I'm just going to remove the backing from one side and then stick that in place, making sure that it's going around that raw edge and just sticking it down on the one side, keeping the seam where the crease is in the middle of that bias tape. Tucking it up nice and tight to that seam allowance. I find if I secure it just beyond the curve and then go back and press that down, you're still going to have a little bit of a wave there, but you can get a reasonably snug fit. I've been a little too generous with my length here, so I'm just going to trim that. Just make sure that it's coming far enough past here. I'm going to fold over the end about 1 inch. A little bit of extra double-sided tape at the end there. Press it down over the top of the start. I'm just going to put a clip there for the moment. Make sure that it's nicely secured and smooth. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to press it down on the other side of the seam allowance. You can tuck that little roll bit just underneath and place a clip there so that it's hidden. And you're just curving that around, wrapping that raw seam. Whichever side you prefer to sew facing up, I recommend making that the side that you stick down second, as when you sew, it's likely that you're going to have less width of your tape on whichever side that is that you stuck down second. For me, I like to sew with the gusset up, but if you like to sew inside the curve, then you would stick your binding to your gusset side first. Peel off that last bit of double-sided tape. Stick that down at the overlap. And then I also put a few clips around just to really secure that nicely. Smooth out my corners. And then I'm going to sew around at 3/8 of an inch from the outside edge. If that is nice and snug up against the edge of your exterior, then that'll give you a consistent seam allowance all the way around, regardless of any bulk that might be pulling that binding a little further away from the inside of the bag. Because of the number of layers that I'm working with, I'm using a slightly longer stitch length than I would normally use for construction. So I'm using a 3 compared to a 2.4, and I'm just going to work my way around. Back stitching at the beginning. I'm also going to increase my tension slightly, again because of the number of layers I'm sewing through here. I've got my stiletto to just help smooth that binding under the presser foot. Just smoothing out that corner on the inside as I come around. And then backstitch when you get back up to the top. So flipping it over, there's just a couple of places where I've missed the binding on the back. So I'm going to flip it over and sew that from the other side. And I'm also just going to re-sew this corner from the back, just because I'm not super happy with that unevenness there. But other than that, it looks pretty good. Just smooth that corner out underneath. And then back stitching at the beginning and the end of this short section that I'm just going to go over one more time. This is why using the same color thread as your binding is good. But I also like to choose binding that is a color that coordinates with my exterior. I very often see the advice to use the same color thread as your binding. But I really find that seeing the stitches from the outside is a problem. If you get that little jagged stitch, you'll often see that from the outside. So if you use a thread that is the same color as your exterior on a binding that is the same color as your exterior, then it will really help disguise any imperfections on your finished product. I'm much, much happier with that. Trim all of your threads and then go around and check that you are happy with that stitch line. Look for any points that the stitches jut out into the body of the bag, and you can correct those if you need to. Turn that first side out. Check all of your stitches and seams to make sure that you're happy with it. And then we can get to work on the other side. I will have a link to the full tutorial in the description. Hope that helps. Thanks, everyone.